We're at the Hendler estate on Hendler Road here in Severna Park. Mr. Hendler, at the age of about 19 years old, working for his father in Baltimore, who had a dairy, would take the milk into the city every day in order to sell it. Most of the time he came back, he still had half of his milk, so he threw it out. He realized at the age, like I said, of 19, that he could make ice cream out of it. So he started that in his basement. By the time he was 24 years old, he had a large factory at 1100 East Baltimore Street in Baltimore, Maryland. He then went to all the druggists that were on the corner drugstores and said to them, "I will be happy to put a soda fountain in your drugstore as long as when people are waiting for their prescription that you would sell them my ice cream." And so that's what he did. He had all these drugstores throughout the whole state of Maryland, and his business grew very rapidly. Mr. Hendler wanted to entertain them, and so he would bring them down here to Severna Park around 1920, 1928. This building here, being that Mr. Hendler was Jewish, he was not allowed to play golf on any of the Baltimore golf clubs. So he went to Oscar Hatton, who owned or was the developer of Severna Park, and there was a 9-hole golf course there. He volunteered to put in another 9 holes and to build a clubhouse. This is the clubhouse. The clubhouse had a large card room upstairs. It had a bar, a ladies' room, and a men's room, along with a big kitchen. So he would bring them down here and they would go riding horses, and they'd go swimming. They would play golf. They would have sing-alongs here. Of course, they had crabs, crab feast, and all kinds of food. It was a gala time. I have many of the old sing-along books. Mr. Hendler just was a great entertainment. A lot of the women or the druggists' wives didn't want to come down to the country and have to ride on the train. So Mr. Hendler tried to make this look like the city as much as he could. So he put in a brick sidewalk, and he had cobblestone streets here for them, along with gas lights that were put in. And I have several letters that tell about people that were here and all the activities that they did. So at any rate, they had these terrific parties that were here. And at the end of the evening, they would have to walk up to Robinson Road and pick up the train. When I was a little boy, Cliff Dawson had a store right up across from the antique, that is now the antique shop, and it's across from actually right across from the railroad station. I even walked down there one day when I was about 3 years old without any clothes on, and Cliff Dawson brought me home. At any rate, he had a little variety store that he had bought from old Doc Codd in 1944. It was, like I say, a variety store. He sold everything in there. He had a soda fountain, he had candy, he had liquor, he had everything, and he was very successful. Cliff's variety store was the focus for the community. Everybody went here. And like I say, in the early 50s, he built this building right here. These poles that are out front here are here for a reason. Shortly after he opened, somebody accidentally drove their car through the front door. So that's why they're all here right now. In 1957, the building caught on fire. Everything burned. $200,000 worth of damage to his business. It was so bad that even the schools were closed that day. It was in October. The very next day, he went across the street and he bought a hardware store. And he started his business right back up again, so there would be no interruption in anything. It was, like I say, a gathering place. Cliff was a very good merchandiser. He brought people in by offering them a 5-cent cup of coffee and a 15-cent hot fudge sundae. Of course, they had sandwiches and soup and everything else that was here. He knew everybody was in town. Earlier in my life, when I was only 9 years old, I had appendicitis. And to give you an idea how closely knit the community was, Cliff Doss, or actually my doctor, Dr. Billingsley, who was out of Glen Burnie, affectionately known as Dr. Bill, called up Cliff and said, Cliff, you have to close the store. This was the smaller store up here. You have to close the store and you have to take Scott J. to University of Maryland Hospital. He has appendicitis. Nobody argued with Dr. Bill, and Cliff Dawson was happy to take me up in his car and make sure that everything was all set. I even think Dr. Bill reached in his pocket and gave my mother a wad of bills to make sure she had some money to take care of me. He was really a wonderful, wonderful part of our community, and we all miss him so much. Of course, now it's turned into a liquor store. Okay, we're standing in front of the Severna Park Railroad Station that was built about 1919. Prior to Severna Park being called Severna Park, it was called Boone because the Boone family owned all this land. Later, they had a contest and renamed it to Severna Park. And as it evolved with a little grocery store and possibly a gas station in the early teens and 20s, this was kind of the heart of the whole town. Across the street was where Cliff Dawson had his store that he opened in 1944 that I talked about a little earlier. And the railroad, this train would come down here from Baltimore to Annapolis every hour on the half hour. It was regular as can be. It was kind of a clunky old thing. It really wasn't a train. It was more of a trolley, I guess you could say. It was painted maroon. The conductor rode back and forth on the same thing all day long. The railroad company really never made any money, so the equipment wasn't all top-notch. As a child, I'd walk down here with my mother and would wait on the side for the train to come down. The first thing I'd do as soon as we got on is I'd go to the men's room, pick up the toilet and watch the railroad tracks go by. It was very inexpensive to go. It was maybe a nickel or a dime to go to Baltimore. The train stopped running in 1949. And the building then became a number of different things. It was my 5th grade classroom when I was here, and it had no water or restroom, so we'd have to walk about a half a block up to the elementary school to go to the bathroom. Later, after that, it became the Severna Park, or the first Severna Park Library. They had a number of books in here. It was also a savings and loan company. And originally when it was built, not only was it a train station, but it was also the post office. And it was where freight was dropped off. They had a special spot on the other side where they would push off different things from the Railroad Express. The building now, or for many years, has been the Severna Park Model Railroad Club, and they meet every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. They do a fabulous job inside, building all kinds of HO sets and all little houses and everything. So if you're ever around on Thursday night, stop in. They'll be happy to show you what they have. I'm standing on the LInstead-Boone-Riggs house in the community of Linstead in Severna Park. It overlooks the Severn River straight down to Annapolis, perfectly south on the compass. The sun comes up on the east side and sets in the west every morning. This particular piece of property was part of a land grant of 1680 to Christopher Randall. It ran from Joyce Lane all the way up to Shipley's Choice and from the Severn River to the Magothy River. The property was built, I believe, by a fellow by the name of Thomas Worthington about 1758. The house went through different people and it had different names on it. Later it was called McCubbin's Fisheries. Now I imagine McCubbin was a big name in Annapolis, and being a fisheries, I imagine that the river was loaded with crabs and fish. He had his business here for a while. Around the early part, or the late part of the 1700s, the Linstead family moved here. They operated a truck farm where they grew cucumbers and tomatoes and lettuce and, of course, good old Maryland corn. They lived here for about 100 years until Elizabeth married a fellow by the name of Thomas Boone. So then the whole property became part of the Boone, the town of Boone, which is Severna Park today. In 1898, the house was rented to some hunters who came down to do some hunting. Well, there was a terrible blizzard, and the hunters got stuck in the house and they couldn't keep warm and they didn't have anything to eat. So they started taking the moldings off the windows and the doors, breaking the doors up to keep warm during the house. In 1906, the house went up for auction, and a pair of fraternal twin brothers from Baltimore bought it by the name of Harry and Francis Riggs. They used it for entertaining. They had people such as Governor Nice and Governor Ritchie that were here, and they would come down, all the Baltimore people would come down and have a big time fishing and swimming and eating crabs. The Riggs brothers also raised chickens, and they also raised hogs. In 1942, the Carter family bought the property. They had two sons. One went to the Naval Academy and one went to West Point. The one that went to West Point, his roommate was the son of General Eisenhower. So after the war, General Eisenhower came here and had dinner with the Carters. The Carters owned it until 1985, when fortunately my wife and I were able to buy the house. We had to completely remodel it. It was loaded with termites and wood boars. We just took all of the wood out, all the floors out. There were times that if you had high heels on your shoes and you walked through the house, your heels would go through the floor. So we redid the whole house, and we sold it in 2001 to a wonderful family, Brian and Harriet Adam.